Come here, Thor. He's on.
Thanos.
Thor. 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 Hi, Thor. Come here, Thor.
News of the C8 Corvette, and quite frankly, there's a lot of people complaining about they're trying to be like the Ferrari. People are complaining that it's losing its appeal because obviously you know, American cars are vastly different than any other car available with that kind of power. Now, Corvettes have always been plagued by, despite the fact that the looks were always really good, they've always been plagued with the simple fact that they're just not remotely supercars, no matter how much power you put into them. I mean, it's kind of like the Dodge Demon, or like a souped-up Dodge Demon. You could easily get it over 1,000 horsepower, but at the end of the day, it's still a Dodge Demon. So, with that being said, I think GM finally did something right, where Ford started with a GT40. They, took the races. They tried to prove a point with the GT40. At some point in time, I'm sure it was attainable, but now with the Ford GT being, starting at $500,000 and going from beyond there, to $1 million and so on and so forth, it's just not attainable anymore. It's not the sports car, the American sports car that's attainable. Even though a lot of people are proud of Ford for doing that. So I mean, you could get like a Ford GT350 or GT 500 or something with a lot of horsepower, but ultimately it's still just a Mustang. Which personally I would prefer that over, a lot of cars simply based off the simple fact that, still, it's still something to be proud about. So, now with the C8 Corvettes, like I said, it's still just a Corvette. It's still just an American car. Now with the C7 Corvette, they made huge improvements, and it was still just an American car, still just a Corvette, still just basically a muscle car. Even though it did well on the track, even though the ZR1, kind of elevated the reputation of the Corvettes, and a lot of people wouldn't mind having a Corvette, but at the end of the day, when you're comparing these cars to like an M4 or like higher end cars with more power, it's kind of difficult to kind of put them in the same realm or hold them to the same standard as some of those more expensive cars, especially since before the C7 you had the C6, and before that you just had terrible cars. Interior wise, the layout of the interior was phenomenal. They started with the heads-up display on the windshield that told you the speed, your RPMs, etc. But the quality of the interior was so bad that it just deterred a lot of people from getting those cars that weren't Americans, quite frankly. So it kind of made it difficult for people to actually want or dream of the Corvette. It was simply the attainable fast car rather than like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, which again, still not in the same realm because those cars are used way over $100,000 and brand new like over $200,000. So now that the C8 is getting the the redo, you could put it up there. I want to say you could put it as high as a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, but quite frankly, it looks more like the car that the C7 tried to be. So with the C7, they were obviously trying to appeal to the younger generations, and with that being said, the C8 did a better job. Because ultimately, pretty soon, we're going to run out of, the older generation buying these cars, which, they grew up on the, anywhere from the C3, C4 Corvettes. And so, when that generation runs out, who's going to be buying these cars? It's going to be the up-and-coming generations who want the dream cars that they, dreamt about, who want the attainable sports car of this day. So, I myself, when doing searches for high-powered cars, even though, like, Z06 or a ZR1 had significantly more power for, the money, like, let's look, for example, ZR1s are a little bit less attainable, but, like, if we're looking at, like a Z06, 2015 Z06, 67,000, and that's kind of the higher end. A ZR1 is probably closer to $75,000 to $80,000. So, granted, you're buying some of these cars used, it's a lot of money, but all things considered, if I could find a ZR1. Getting a newer ZR1, you're looking at $120,000. It is underused, which probably means that it was just a demo car. It only has 580 miles. It could have very easily been somebody's car, but they decided. So if you're getting a, whatever the case may be, 120 grand is still a lot. It's very close to what it would have been, brand new. But with that being said, $120,000 for what you get out of a ZR1. Not a lot of people are going to want that. You get a lot of power. It's really nice interior-wise. It's really nice. It's got really nice features. Control is amazing. Handling in a Corvette is amazing now. And it's comparable to some of those higher-end sports cars, but supercars. But at the end of the day, it's still just a Corvette. Like, who's gonna pay $120,000? There's still people out there, obviously, but so now, like, in the future, we get a ZR1 Corvette that is comparable. Like, people are calling basically like the rip-off Ferrari, or like the rebadged Ferrari. That isn't really much of an insult when you think about it, because if you're comparing a Corvette to a Ferrari, I mean, it's a no-brainer. They start at $60,000 compared to a Ferrari that starts at easily $200,000, or if not more. I'm sure you could get a used one for less, but the point is, the C8 Corvette is coming out renewed, completely redone for basically the people that want a Corvette but can't justify it based on its it has a really good reputation, so that's not going to be it. But based on the looks, based on the just overall feel of it, just again, the C7 and before then didn't really feel like it was worth the price of a comparable M5 or M4, or like Porsche. I used Porsche 911 or something like that. People were buying these Porsche 911s and things like that. So ultimately, you get a car again that's compared to the Ferrari by a lot of people. You get a car that is attainable, it is affordable for a lot of people. So, I mean, it's going to be all over the road, realistically, at the end of the day. So, what I believe is going to end up happening is a lot of these automakers, a lot of these higher end automakers are going to have more competition, so they're going to have to appeal to the people that want $60,000 sports car, an attainable sports car, and I mean they're going to get a run for their money, ultimately, with the rear rear configuration for the engine. I mean, which is another thing a lot of people are complaining about. Like, people are complaining about like it's no longer a muscle car because they're moving the engine to the back and blah blah blah. But a lot of these people are the same people that don't have a Corvette, never plan on buying a Corvette, whatever the case may be, and who have never driven a Corvette. Because at the end, like when you think about it, a rear engine or mid-engine car, is gonna handle better. So when you set the bar so high up for the C7 for ZR1, to where the handling was phenomenal, like how are you gonna top that? The only way you could top that is by putting the engine in the middle, which they've been planning for like 60, 70 years, maybe a little bit less than that, but they've been planning it for a long time. So it's really difficult to even be mad at that. If they've been playing it for a long time, you knew it was coming, you don't like it, buy a C7. Don't like the C7 because of the styling, which a lot of people didn't like that because it was more futuristic, more intended to appeal to the younger generations, and the older generations were mad because it was too flashy, trying too hard, whatever the case may be. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the C7s flew off the shelves, so they did something right. So I think the C8 is going to do a hell of a lot better than the C7, and unless they make it to where it's harder to attain, which at the beginning it might be. The only thing I'm really concerned about is dealers trying to mark them up above MSRP, which again, with an attainable car that's not like the Ford GT where it's limited production, it's going to be very difficult for dealers to mark it up. But I mean, look at the Gladiator. Gladiator wasn't going to be a special edition, nothing. But people were marking the hell out of those. Even Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler marked it up, considering they were trying to sell the launch edition for significantly more, even though it was basically a Rubicon with like a couple of things, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. So hoping GM doesn't do that, but I guess we'll see and find out how attainable they really are when the C8s start being shipped. Right now, I think it's like a couple grand or something to reserve a C8. Pretty much everybody from... See, this is an interesting thing. It's a car that's very interesting when basically everybody wants one. People that drive McLarens, people that drive Lamborghinis, R8s, they're wanting a C8. It's getting the attention of the people that they tried to get the attention of. So the only bad thing is I can't see them releasing a high performance version of the car right away, probably within the next year. I didn't really look at all their plans, but I know they're going to release the C8 here pretty soon. So I mean, people are going to be flipping these cars, getting the first release C8s, starting to get the Z06 whenever that's released, and the ZR1 whenever that's released. So these cars are going to be in the used market, low miles, unless you're a YouTuber, then probably high miles, and then it's gonna be an attainable dream car for everybody. So I'm really looking forward to it. Eventually, I could see myself getting one. Once I build up to that point, but it's really the future of cars. Doing something different, especially as an American automaker. When we're competing for the business of people that have BMW and have Porsche. So I'm excited as many other people are.